engineer Marcus Webb has been contracted to the Thessari Research Station, Kelthara's Reach, for 6 months, providing cross-species technical expertise on the hybrid human-Thessari systems that joint facilities increasingly rely on, but that pure specialists in either species' engineering traditions struggle to maintain effectively. It's been good work, challenging enough to be interesting, collaborative enough to be professionally satisfying, and stable enough that Marcus has settled into comfortable routine of diagnosing problems, implementing solutions, and building working relationships with the Thessari engineering staff who appreciate his hybrid systems knowledge even when they don't fully understand his approaches. That comfortable routine ended approximately 16 hours ago when the station's primary life support distribution system suffered catastrophic cascade failure that emergency protocols couldn't arrest. Marcus was in the maintenance core, the central access point for all major station systems, when the failure began. He felt it before the alarm sounded, the particular vibration that indicates pressure differentials developing where they shouldn't, the subtle change in air quality that suggests distribution problems, the shift in ambient sound that comes from systems operating outside normal parameters. By the time emergency protocols activated and started sealing affected sections, Marcus had already begun diagnostic assessment of what was failing and why. The maintenance core's access to monitoring systems gave him comprehensive view of the cascade as it spread through the station's interconnected life support networks. The damage was severe. Multiple distribution nodes failing simultaneously, pressure dropping in occupied sections, backup systems struggling to compensate for loads they weren't designed to handle. The kind of failure that could kill everyone on the station if it wasn't arrested within hours. Emergency protocols diverted all available personnel to evacuation zones, standard procedure for catastrophic life support failure. But Marcus wasn't evacuated. He was still in the maintenance core when the emergency seals activated, isolating him in the space that held the diagnostic and repair equipment he'd need to address the failure. That isolation was an accident. Someone in station command made a calculation. The human engineer has hybrid system knowledge that Thessari specialists lack. The failure is occurring in systems that require exactly that hybrid knowledge to repair, and time matters more than following protocols about evacuating non-essential personnel. Station command contacted Marcus directly through the maintenance core's communication system. Commander Sarath's voice carried urgency that bypassed normal Thessari diplomatic restraint. Engineer Webb, we have catastrophic life support failure that our specialists cannot repair in the time we have available. You have access to the maintenance core and the affected systems. Can you implement repairs from your current position? Marcus assessed the diagnostics, saw the cascade pattern, understood immediately what had failed and why. A harmonic resonance between human and Thessari components that neither species' engineering protocols anticipated, because pure specialists don't think about cross-system interactions the way someone with hybrid knowledge does. Yes, Marcus replied. I can repair it, but I'll need approximately 12 to 16 hours, and I'll need complete access to fabrication resources to create replacement components that don't exist in standard inventory. Authorized, Sarath said immediately. Whatever you need, whatever approach you judge necessary, just stop the cascade before we lose life support station-wide. That was 14 hours ago. Marcus has spent those hours diagnosing the specific harmonic pattern that triggered the cascade, identifying which components failed and which are merely stressed but recoverable, designing replacement parts that address the harmonic issue rather than just replacing damaged equipment, fabricating those parts using the maintenance core's limited but versatile manufacturing capabilities, and implementing repairs that combine human understanding of resonance damping with Thessari, approaches to redundant system architecture. It's been exhausting work, the kind that requires absolute focus for extended periods, the kind where mistakes would be catastrophic, the kind where you don't stop to eat or rest because stopping means people die. But it's also been the most technically satisfying work Marcus has done in years. Pure problem solving, no committees, no approval processes, no political considerations. Just engineering at its most fundamental. Identify what's broken, determine why, implement solution, verify it works. The final system check runs on the display in front of him. Life support distribution nodes coming back online. Pressure stabilizing throughout affected sections. Atmosphere quality returning to normal parameters. Backup systems releasing their emergency loads as primary systems resume function. The cascade is arrested. The repairs are successful. The station is safe. Marcus wipes his hands on his work clothes. They're filthy after 14 hours of physical work with components and tools, and feels the exhaustion settling in now that the adrenaline and focus are no longer required. He needs to get out of the maintenance core. Needs to report to station command that repairs are complete. Needs food and sleep and probably medical check since he's been working for 14 hours straight in a sealed environment. He walks to the maintenance core's primary hatch, the main access point that connects the core to the station's central corridor. Reaches for the release mechanism, expecting routine clearance. The emergency seals should have automatically released once life support systems returned to normal parameters. Or if they're still engaged for some procedural reason, station command should respond to his hatch request immediately given that he's just saved the entire station from catastrophic failure. The mechanism doesn't budge. Marcus tries again, applying more force. The hatch remains sealed. He checks the control panel beside the hatch. Status lights show green across all systems, life support normal, pressure equalized, no emergency conditions active. Except one indicator, external lock engaged. Not emergency seal, not automatic safety protocol, deliberate external lock activated from outside the maintenance core. Marcus tries the manual override, the emergency release that should open any hatch regardless of external locks except under very specific safety conditions. The override doesn't function. The hatch remains sealed. He returns to the control panel, studies the status display more carefully, confirms what his initial assessment suggested. The hatch is sealed from the outside by deliberate command authority, and all override mechanisms have been disabled. No alarms, no emergency indicators. No announcement from station, command explaining why the engineer who just spent 14 hours preventing catastrophic station failure is now locked in the maintenance core. Just the quiet realization that the situation has changed without him being informed. Whatever he fixed was critical enough that someone decided he shouldn't leave yet, or decided he shouldn't leave at all. Marcus stands at the sealed hatch for approximately 30 seconds, processing what the external lock means and what responses might be appropriate. His first instinct is to assume malfunction. Maybe the hatch's control systems were affected by the cascade failure and emergency repairs. Maybe the external lock is safety protocol that should have automatically released, but didn't because of system glitches. But the status display doesn't show any system errors. Shows deliberate command lock, properly implemented, functioning exactly as designed. Someone locked him in, intentionally. After he completed the repairs that saved the station, Marcus moves to the maintenance core's primary communication terminal, activates the channel to station command. Commander Sarath, this is Engineer Webb. Repairs are complete, all systems showing nominal function. I'm ready to exit the maintenance core, but the primary hatch is showing external command lock. Please release the lock so I can report for medical check and debriefing. The response comes within seconds. Sarath's voice still carries formal tone, but the urgency from 14 hours ago is gone, replaced by something more careful, more controlled. Engineer Webb, Station Command acknowledges successful completion of repairs. Your work prevented catastrophic station-wide life support failure, and your expertise was exactly what the situation required. We are grateful for your efforts. The formal gratitude feels wrong, feels like preamble to something Marcus isn't going to like. However, Sarath continues, and Marcus's suspicion is confirmed, the repairs you implemented deviated significantly from standard Thessari engineering protocols. While effective, they require comprehensive analysis before station command can authorize your release from the maintenance core. Marcus feels cold understanding settling in. Analysis of what, Commander? The repairs work. Life support is stable. What needs to be analyzed? The methods you employed, Sarath replies, and her voice has the precise, formal quality that Thessari use when delivering information they know will be problematic. The modifications you made to core systems. The hybrid approaches you implemented that bypass several safety limitations built into standard protocols. Station Command needs to understand exactly what you did. Verify that your modifications don't create unforeseen security concerns, and determine appropriate access restrictions for someone who has demonstrated the ability to improvise solutions that circumvent established safety architectures. The message is clear even through the diplomatic language. Marcus's competence has made him simultaneously indispensable and potentially dangerous. Commander, I implemented repairs using the best engineering practices available to me under emergency conditions, Marcus says, keeping his voice level despite the frustration building. The hybrid approaches were necessary because pure Thessari protocols wouldn't have addressed the harmonic resonance that caused the cascade. If I'd followed standard procedures, the repairs would have failed or taken days instead of hours. I made the choices that saved lives. Station Command acknowledges that, Sarath replies, which is why we're taking time for comprehensive analysis rather than making immediate decisions about your status. The analysis will likely conclude that your modifications were appropriate given the emergency circumstances, and that you should be commended for effective problem-solving under pressure. But until that analysis is complete, she continues, you will remain in the maintenance core. The hatch will be unsealed once Station Command has reviewed your repairs, verified system security, and determined appropriate protocols for your continued access to station systems. Marcus recognizes the diplomatic framing, but also hears what isn't being said. They're not confident the analysis will conclude favorably, and they're keeping him confined while they decide whether his ability to bypass safety protocols makes him too dangerous to allow free movement. How long will this analysis take? Marcus asks. Unknown, Sarath admits. Several hours at minimum, possibly longer depending on the complexity of your modifications and the thoroughness required for proper security assessment. So I'm confined indefinitely while you determine whether the engineer who just saved your station should be treated as security risk, Marcus states flatly. You're temporarily restricted to the maintenance core while Station Command exercises appropriate caution about modifications to core systems, Sarath corrects, but the correction doesn't change the substance. Commander, I need food, water, and sleep, Marcus says. I've been working for 14 hours straight in a sealed environment. Keeping me confined without access to basic necessities isn't appropriate caution, it's punishing competence. The maintenance core has emergency supplies, Sarath replies. We will arrange delivery of additional food and water through the maintenance access port. Medical monitoring will be conducted remotely. You will be as comfortable as circumstances permit while the analysis proceeds. Circumstances permit me leaving the maintenance core and reporting to my quarters like any other engineer who just completed emergency repairs, Marcus objects. Under normal circumstances, yes, Sarath acknowledges. But your repairs were not conducted under normal protocols, and Station Command has responsibility to verify security before authorizing your release. Please be patient, Engineer Webb. The analysis will proceed as quickly as thoroughness allows. The communication ends. Marcus is left standing in the maintenance core with the sealed hatch, the status lights confirming external lock, and the quiet recognition that his technical competence has transformed from asset to concern in the minds of Station Command. He looks around the maintenance core. It's spacious enough, designed to accommodate multiple engineers working simultaneously on complex repairs. Well-equipped with tools, diagnostic systems, fabrication resources. The emergency supplies Sarath mentioned are stored in clearly marked cabinets. It's not a cell. It's a workspace. But it's a workspace he can't leave because someone decided that knowing how to solve problems they couldn't solve makes him too dangerous to trust with freedom of movement. Marcus sits down at one of the workstations. His exhaustion is more pronounced now that the adrenaline has fully worn off. 14 hours of continuous work catching up with him. He could rest, could access the emergency supplies, eat something, sleep while Station Command conducts their analysis. Could be patient and wait for them to conclude that his repairs were appropriate and that he should be released. but something about the situation bothers him in ways that transcend the immediate inconvenience of being confined. Competence has become leverage. The better he is at solving problems, the more concerned they are about what else he might be able to do. The hybrid approaches that make him valuable are the same approaches that make them nervous about giving him access to station systems. Being indispensable doesn't mean being trusted. Sometimes it means being controlled. Marcus pulls up the maintenance core system access on his workstation, reviews what he has available from his current confined position: diagnostic access to all major station systems, manufacturing capabilities through the fabrication equipment, tool inventory sufficient for almost any repair task, communication systems connecting him to station command and, theoretically, to other channels if he chose to access them, and comprehensive schematics showing exactly how the maintenance core connects to the rest of the station, including detailed specifications of the primary hatch, its locking mechanisms, and the control systems that manage access. The sealed hatch isn't a question of whether Marcus can leave. It's a question of whether he should. Whether forcing his own exit would confirm the concerns that led to his confinement, or whether waiting for permission would establish precedent where competence becomes justification for control. Marcus stares at the hatch specifications displayed on his workstation and begins making calculations about what would be required to override an external lock. Using the tools and access, Marcus spends approximately 20 minutes reviewing the hatch's technical specifications and the various systems that control access to the maintenance core. The external lock is sophisticated but not impenetrable. It operates through redundant control systems designed to prevent unauthorized access from outside while maintaining emergency override capability from inside. Except the emergency override has been disabled, requires command authorization that Marcus doesn't have. But the maintenance core's fabrication equipment could produce components that would physically bypass the electronic lock. And Marcus has comprehensive access to the diagnostic systems that monitor the hatch's status, which means he could potentially modify those systems to report that the hatch remains locked while he's actually opening it. It's not simple, would require several hours of careful work, but it's achievable for someone with Marcus's expertise and access to the tools available in the maintenance core. The question isn't whether he can do it. The question is whether doing it would be wise choice or would confirm station command's apparent concerns that he's security risk because of his ability to improvise solutions outside standard protocols. Marcus is considering this question when the maintenance core's secondary communication terminal activates, not the primary channel to station command, but a different connection he wasn't aware existed. The display shows an incoming transmission on an encrypted channel. The identifier indicates it's coming from Captain Elena Vasquez, the human liaison officer assigned to coordinate between human contractors and Thessari Station administration. Marcus accepts the connection. Elena's face appears on the screen. She looks concerned and slightly furtive, as though she's making this communication without proper authorization. "Marcus, I don't have much time," Elena says without preamble. "I've been monitoring the situation, and I need to tell you what's actually happening with Station Command's analysis of your repairs." "I'm listening," Marcus replies. "Commander Sarath wasn't lying about needing to analyze your work," Elena explains quickly. "But the analysis isn't primarily technical. It's political. Station Command is debating whether your hybrid engineering approach represents valuable capability they want to maintain access to, or whether it represents unacceptable security risk because you've demonstrated ability to modify core systems in ways their specialists can't predict or control." "I figured that much out from how carefully Sarath phrased her explanation," Marcus says. "What you don't know is that the debate is specifically about whether to release you or to extend your confinement indefinitely under justification that you need to remain available for potential future emergencies." Elena continues. "There's a faction in Station Command that wants to essentially make you permanent on-call resource, kept in controlled environment where they can access your expertise when needed, but where you can't use that expertise in ways they haven't approved." Marcus feels the cold understanding deepening. "They want to turn me into a tool they can use when convenient and store when not." That's the concern several of us have, Elena confirms. The faction pushing for extended confinement is arguing that your value to the station is too high to risk losing if you decide to leave or refuse future emergency repairs. They're suggesting that keeping you available, even if it means restricting your freedom, serves greater good of station safety. And the fact that they're having this debate while keeping me locked in the maintenance core suggests they're seriously considering that option, Marcus observes. They are, Elena says, which is why I'm making this unauthorized contact. You need to understand that waiting patiently for their analysis to conclude might not result in your release. It might result in formal decision to extend your confinement indefinitely under the framework that your expertise is critical station resource that requires controlled access. Marcus absorbs this. What do you recommend? You've demonstrated you can solve problems they can't, Elena says. Now demonstrate you won't be contained by people trying to control that capability. Don't wait for permission that might never come. Make your own exit. Show them that competence doesn't equal controllability. If I force my exit, I confirm their concern that I'm security risk, Marcus points out. If you don't force your exit, you confirm their assumption that valuable resources can be controlled through confinement, Elena counters. Either way, you're making statement about what kind of relationship you're willing to have with station command. I'd rather you make the statement that humans don't accept being locked up just because we're good at our jobs. She pauses. I can't help you directly. My position here depends on maintaining official cooperation with station command. But I can tell you that several human personnel are monitoring this situation, and we will support whatever action you take as reasonable response to unjustified confinement. If you exit the maintenance core through your own efforts, we'll back your position that forced exit was appropriate given the circumstances. Understood, Marcus says. Thank you for the information and for the support. Don't thank me yet, Elena replies. Just make the choice that preserves your freedom rather than the one that makes you into controlled resource for people who think expertise equals ownership. The communication ends. Marcus is left alone in the maintenance core with significantly more information about what's actually at stake. This isn't just about analyzing his repairs. It's about whether station command can justify turning him into permanent on-call resource by arguing that his expertise is too valuable to risk losing. The sealed hatch becomes something different in light of this information. Not just temporary restriction pending analysis, but potentially the beginning of indefinite confinement disguised as necessary security measure. Marcus pulls up the hatch specifications again, reviews his calculations about what would be required to bypass the external lock. He could wait, could trust that station command will conclude that confining him indefinitely isn't justified and will release him once they've completed their analysis. But Elena's information suggests that trust might be misplaced. That the faction favoring extended confinement is serious, and that waiting for permission might mean waiting indefinitely while they formalize protocols for keeping him available as controlled resource. Or he could make his own exit. Demonstrate that being indispensable doesn't mean being controllable. Show station command that human engineers don't accept confinement just because their competence makes them valuable. The risk is confirming their security concerns, but the risk of waiting is accepting a precedent where expertise becomes justification for control. Marcus makes his decision. He begins pulling components from the fabrication equipment, starts designing the physical bypass mechanism that will open the hatch regardless of the external lock's electronic state. Accesses the diagnostic systems that monitor hatch status and starts writing code that will report the hatch as remaining sealed even after he opens it. It takes 4 hours of focused work. Marcus is running on exhaustion and the emergency rations from the core's supplies, but his hands are steady and his understanding of the systems is comprehensive from 14 hours of recent intimate contact with every major station system. At hour 4, he has everything ready. The physical bypass installed, the diagnostic spoofing prepared, the plan clear in his mind. He activates the bypass. The hatch's electronic lock remains engaged, shows engaged on all official monitoring systems because Marcus's diagnostic modifications are reporting exactly what station command expects to see. But the physical mechanism disengages. The hatch, from Marcus's perspective, is no longer sealed. He could open it now, could walk out of the maintenance core into the station corridor, could make his own exit and demonstrate that confinement wasn't sustainable regardless of what station command decided. Marcus pauses at the hatch, hand on the manual release. This is the choice: wait for permission or make his own exit. Accept being controlled or demonstrate that competence doesn't equal controllability. He opens the hatch. The corridor outside the maintenance core is empty, late station cycle, most personnel in their quarters, the kind of quiet that major facilities have during off hours when only essential systems monitoring continues. Marcus steps through the hatch. The diagnostic systems are reporting to station command that the hatch remains sealed, his spoofing code functioning exactly as designed. He has approximately 4 to 6 hours before anyone physically checks the maintenance core and discovers that the secured hatch is standing open and the engineer who was supposed to be confined is gone. Maybe longer if station command trusts their monitoring systems and doesn't see need for physical verification. Enough time to reach his quarters. Enough time to clean up, eat properly, rest. Enough time to prepare for the confrontation that will inevitably follow when station command realizes he made his own exit. Marcus walks through the quiet corridors toward the residential section where contractor quarters are located. Moves with the same steady, unhurried pace he brought to the repair work, not running, not hiding, just moving purposefully toward where he needs to be. He encounters one Thessari station technician during the walk. The technician's skin shows surprised white when they see Marcus. Clearly didn't expect to encounter the human engineer who everyone knows is supposed to be confined to the maintenance core pending security analysis. Marcus nods politely, continues walking, doesn't offer explanation or acknowledge that his presence in the corridor is unexpected. The technician doesn't challenge him, doesn't activate any alarms, just watches him pass with confused expression and skin colors that cycle through multiple shades of uncertainty. Marcus reaches his quarters. The door recognizes his credentials and opens normally. His access hasn't been restricted beyond the maintenance core confinement. He enters, the door closes behind him. His quarters feel almost surreal after 18 hours in the maintenance core. Familiar space, personal belongings, the comfortable environment he's called home for 6 months of contract work. He showers. The hot water is luxury after 14 hours of physical labor and 4 hours of bypass mechanism fabrication. Eats from his personal food supplies, real meal rather than emergency rations. The exhaustion is profound, but he forces himself to stay awake long enough to prepare for what comes next. He records a message to station command. Keeps it brief and direct. Commander Sarath, this is Engineer Webb. I have exited the maintenance core through my own efforts because I determined that waiting indefinitely for analysis of my repairs while confined was not acceptable. I completed the work you requested under emergency conditions. That work saved lives. Confining me afterward sent message that competence is justification for control rather than grounds for trust. I'm in my quarters. I'm available for whatever debriefing or technical review you require, but I will not accept continued confinement as price for being good at my job. If station command wishes to discuss appropriate security protocols for hybrid engineering work, I'm willing to have that conversation. But it will be a conversation between equals, not between command authority and controlled resource. He sends the message through official channels, then waits. The response comes faster than he expected, approximately 90 minutes after he sent his message. Not from Commander Sarath, from Captain Alina Vasquez. Marcus, station command is aware you've exited the maintenance core. They discovered it about 40 minutes ago when diagnostic systems showed discrepancy between reported hatch status and physical security patrol observations. They know you bypassed the lock and spoofed the monitoring systems. They're currently debating response. The faction that wanted extended confinement is arguing this proves your security risk. That you bypassed protocols, violated confinement, demonstrated exactly the kind of unpredictable behavior they were concerned about. But there's another faction, larger than the first. That's arguing your exit demonstrates that treating competent contractors as controlled resources isn't a viable approach. That human engineers won't accept confinement just because we're valuable. That station command needs to develop trust-based protocols rather than control-based ones. Elena pauses in her message. The second faction is winning the debate. Station command is preparing official response that will acknowledge your exit was reasonable reaction to unjustified confinement and will establish new protocols for emergency repair situations that don't involve restricting contractors' freedom afterward. You made the right choice, Elena concludes, standing up for your freedom rather than accepting control. That choice is changing how Station Command thinks about relationship with human contractors. You demonstrated something important. Being indispensable doesn't mean being controllable. 6 hours after Marcus sent his message, Commander Sarath requests formal meeting in her office. Marcus arrives to find not just Sarath, but also Dr. Cathara, the Thessari systems analyst who led the technical review of his repairs. Sarath's skin shows complex colors, embarrassment mixed with respect mixed with residual concern. Engineer Webb, Sarath begins formally, Station Command has completed analysis of your repairs and your subsequent exit from the maintenance core. I want to address both matters directly. The repairs you implemented were exemplary. Dr. Cathara interjects before Sarath can continue. Your hybrid approach solved the harmonic resonance problem that our specialists missed entirely. The modifications you made are sound, secure, and represent exactly the kind of cross-species engineering expertise we contracted you to provide. There are no security concerns with your work, only admiration for your problem-solving capability. The confinement was inappropriate, Sarath says, and her voice carries genuine regret. Station Command made decision based on concern rather than evidence. We worried that your ability to bypass standard protocols made you potential security risk. That concern led us to restrict your freedom while we analyzed the situation. Your exit demonstrated that the concern was misplaced, Sarath continues. Not because you proved you're not capable of bypassing protocols, you clearly are, but because you proved that treating capability as threat rather than as asset damages trust in ways that undermine the collaborative relationship we need with human contractors. She pauses. Station Command is establishing new protocols for emergency repair situations. Future scenarios will not involve restricting contractors' freedom as security measure. If we need analysis of repair work, that analysis will proceed while the contractor has normal access to station facilities. Trust rather than control. I appreciate that, Commander, Marcus says, and I appreciate the acknowledgement that the confinement was inappropriate. I want to ask you something, Sarath says. When you were in the maintenance core, deciding whether to wait for our analysis or to make your own exit, what determined your choice? Marcus considers the question. Captain Vasquez provided information that suggested waiting might mean indefinite confinement. That there was a faction in Station Command considering keeping me available as controlled resource rather than as free contractor. That information made clear that waiting for permission might mean accepting precedent, where competence becomes justification for control. I wasn't willing to accept that precedent, Marcus continues, so I demonstrated that controlling competent people isn't viable strategy. That will make our own choices about freedom regardless of what command authority decides is convenient. Sarath's skin shows warm gold, the color indicating genuine respect. That demonstration changed Station Command's thinking more effectively than any argument about contractor rights could have. You showed us that humans won't be controlled just because you're valuable. That forced us to reconsider our entire approach to security protocols for emergency situations. The repairs are done, Dr. Cathara says. The systems are running better than they were before the cascade. Your hybrid approach created improvements we're analyzing for potential implementation across other station systems. Your work was exactly what we needed. And now you're free, Sarath adds. Not because we decided to release you, because you decided that freedom wasn't something you'd wait for permission to exercise. That's uncomfortable lesson for command authority. But it's lesson we needed to learn. Marcus returns to his quarters, feeling the exhaustion fully now that the confrontation has resolved without consequence. The repairs are done. The hatch that was sealed is open. The confinement that was imposed is ended, not because permission was granted, but because freedom was taken. Competence became leverage. But leverage works both ways. Being indispensable meant losing freedom temporarily. Making his own exit meant demonstrating that indispensable doesn't equal controllable. The choice between waiting for permission or making his own exit